Hanley was engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions as he faced the relentless Dr. Mo. Fear, regret, and a profound sense of helplessness filled his heart, plunging him into a state of panic. He knew that attempting to postpone the inevitable was futile, for Dr. Mo, with his vast experience in Jianghu, was a formidable force to be reckoned with. Hanley, still young and inexperienced, felt powerless in the face of the doctor's pressure. Observing the various expressions that crossed Hanley's face, Dr. Mo felt satisfied to see the discomfort he caused. He knew that it was easier to extract the truth when someone was restless and confused. Confronting Hanley about his progress in cultivation, Dr. Mo expressed his skepticism towards the young man's excuses. He argued that given Hanley's history, it would be unlikely for him not to have progressed further in his studies. Hanley, in turn, felt helpless in the face of Dr. Mo's distrust, realizing that his attempts to conceal his progress only put him in an even more complicated situation. Dr. Mo revealed his own story of tragedy and betrayal, explaining how he was poisoned by a confidant and forced to abandon his position and family. In his quest for a cure to reverse the effects of the poison, he came across an ancient book called the Scripture of Longevity, which promised to restore his martial abilities. However, by following the teachings of the book, he found himself aging prematurely and undergoing a grotesque transformation. Hanley realized the depth of Dr. Mo's hatred and remorse, feeling a shiver run down his spine as he witnessed his wild expression. Dr. Mo explained that his quest for a cure was related to the cultivation technique he was trying to teach Hanley, the Eternal Spring Arts technique. This technique required not only a suitable body but also specific spiritual roots that few possessed. Under Dr. Mo's threats and manipulations, Hanley felt compelled to submit to his will, despite his own desires and concerns. He realized he was completely defeated and that his only chance of survival was to follow the doctor's instructions. As Hanley began to cultivate the Eternal Spring Arts, he discovered that the technique not only strengthened his body but also increased his wisdom and insight. He stood out among his peers, demonstrating uncommon intelligence and skill. As Hanley progressed in his training, he developed a deeper understanding of the Eternal Spring Arts and his own potential. Despite the challenges and difficulties, he persevered, determined to master the technique and prove his worth. Meanwhile, Dr. Mo watched with interest as Hanley progressed, recognizing his exceptional talent. Despite their differences and turbulent past, the doctor began to feel a mixture of envy and admiration for his young disciple. As Hanley continued his cultivation journey, he faced numerous challenges and adversities. However, his determination and skill took him further and further, revealing an extraordinary potential that even the feared Dr. Mo found impressive. Over time, Hanley became a master of the Eternal Spring Arts, completely mastering the technique and reaching a level of power that few could match. His tumultuous journey transformed him into a formidable warrior, ready to face any challenge that fate had in store for him. And so, the story of Hanley and Dr. Mo continues, a saga of friendship and rivalry, of overcoming and redemption, in a world where power and skill determine the fate of those who dare to challenge the limits of what's possible. Hanley prepared to leave, his body turning towards the door. Before exiting completely, he posed one last question. Since your arrival, the brother behind Dr. Mo hasn't uttered a single word. Where did he come from? In response, Dr. Mo opted not to answer directly, only letting out a cunning laugh. So perceptive. Why don't you guess? I'm sure you're capable of it. Hanley shook his head resignedly and departed from Dr. Mo's residence. It wasn't clear whether he didn't want to speculate or simply couldn't find the right answer. Once outside, Hanley's expression turned dark and crestfallen. In this confrontation with Dr. Mo, I feel as helpless as a chick, completely under his control. I was naive to think my cunning would be enough to deceive him. The 5 venoms water I created didn't show its full potential and was wasted. When I return, I need to seriously consider how to increase my strength. With these thoughts, he quickly made his way back to his residence, visibly reluctant to remain under Dr. Mo's control. Meanwhile, at Dr. Mo's residence, he looked stunned at the ground. A bowl-sized hole had been corroded into the wooden panels. Through a careless mistake, he had nearly met his demise due to the poison. Enraged, he cursed. That bastard, how did he learn to create such a lethal poison? I never taught him such a thing. I underestimated him. He can be extremely cruel and ruthless, turning against former allies. Hanli had no idea of the impact he had caused on Dr. Imo. Back in his room, he collapsed onto the bed, overcome by sleep after the physical and mental strain of the battle. Upon waking, Hanli sat up and looked at the sky, realizing dawn was approaching. It seemed he had slept more than expected. He didn't immediately get up, but instead remained seated, pondering how to escape from Dr. Mo's control. He was safe for a year, as Dr. Imo needed to protect his own life. However, after that time, his safety would be uncertain. Hanli weighed his options, realizing he had no good solutions. Both he and Dr. Imo were in trouble, each fearing the other's actions. Feeling powerless, Hanli murmured, "I cannot allow others to control my destiny." Despite not finding a definitive solution, he decided to focus on strengthening himself. It was a risky decision, but it seemed to be the only option. With this determination, he went for a walk, reaffirming his resolve not to let others determine his fate. Hanli and Li Feiyu were in the midst of a discussion about martial arts techniques in a remote and serene location deep within the celestial Rainbow Mountain. The stream they had discovered, fed by a spring of mineral water, offered a refreshing escape from the scorching summer heat. As they enjoyed the invigorating sensation of the cool water on their skin, their conversations ranged between camaraderie and the secrets they shared. Hanli, although grateful for the effectiveness of the remedy he had provided to Li Feiyu, was eager to learn martial techniques gentler than those taught so far. Li Feiyu, in turn, recognized Hanli's potential and tried to persuade him to focus on more conventional training. The conversation then turned to a peculiar sword technique known as the flashing sword art. Passed down through generations in the Seven Mysteries sect, this intriguing technique had never been fully mastered by any disciple, not even by its creator. The technique's enigmatic reputation piqued Hanli's curiosity, and he was eager to learn more. Li Feiyu explained that the flashing sword art did not require the use of true qi to be executed, making it unique among other martial techniques. However, its complexity and technical demands were challenging, leading to its lack of mastery over the years. Though intrigued, Hanli hesitated to delve into this new endeavor. He recognized the difficulty and uncertainty associated with the technique, but the appeal of a skill that did not consume his true qi was tempting. After brief reflection, Hanli decided that exploring the flashing sword art would be worthwhile, even if only to broaden his knowledge and skills. With the promise of potential and challenge, he accepted Li Feiyu's offer to learn more about this unique technique. Thus, amidst the tranquil scenery of the mountains, Hanli and Li Feiyu shared not only refreshing baths but also a journey of discovery and personal improvement. The stream deep within the celestial Rainbow Mountain witnessed not only their light-hearted conversations but also the beginning of a new quest for knowledge and power. Hanli was intrigued by the mention of the flashing sword art. He couldn't help but murmur about it. The ensuing dialogue between him and Li Feiyu, revealing the dark history behind this technique, only heightened his curiosity. Li Feiyu, with his usual cold expression, shared details about the technique, describing it as something less than practical but with an intriguing history. The creation of the technique, linked to the creator's gratitude towards the sect leader, added a layer of mystery to its existence. For Hanli, this set of sword techniques seemed to be exactly what he was looking for. After agreeing to Li Feiyu's bold suggestion to steal the original manual, he felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Would this be the answer to his impending challenges? Meanwhile, the scenery around Hanli continued to evolve. The mysterious figure guarding the entrance to Dr. Mo's residence was an enigma in itself. Their silent and unwavering presence aroused both fascination and concern in Hanli. He wondered about the true nature and purpose of this individual, especially considering their connection to Dr. Mo. Gradually, Hanli began to unravel the mysteries around him, from the sword technique to the mysterious figure. However, even with his mental abilities enhanced by eidetic memory, he still faced significant challenges. The looming deadline set by Dr. Mo added additional pressure to his quest for power and skill. With his abilities currently limited, Han Li realized the urgent need to enhance his combat skills. The Eternal Spring arts had strengthened his body, but now he needed a technique that could translate that power into effective action on the battlefield. Thus, Han Li's hope rested on the flashing sword art as a possible solution to his dilemmas. He hoped that this technique could be the catalyst that would propel him to new levels of skill and prepare him for the challenges ahead. On a sunny afternoon, Han Li stealthily ventured out of the Valley of the Divine Hand in search of Li Feiyu, 10 days after the agreement had been established. Despite his attempts to escape, Han Li knew he couldn't evade the watchful eyes of Dr. Mo. Surprisingly, the doctor granted him seemingly unlimited freedom, allowing him to move without restrictions. Initially suspicious of the intentions behind this granted freedom, Han Li began to relax as his forays outside the valley went unnoticed. Soon, he realized that Dr. Mo had an ulterior motive for his tolerance. It was in the doctor's interest to keep him satisfied. Although Dr. Mo attempted to control Han Li with the threat of his techniques and the safety of his family, he knew that wouldn't be enough to keep him under total control. Han Li would only foster a desire for revenge, hindering his own progress. Consequently, by allowing him freedom, Dr. Mo hoped to remove any sense of oppression that might inhibit Han Li's cultivation. Ultimately, the doctor needed Han Li to cultivate the arts of Eternal Spring, but knew he couldn't force him to do so. Understanding this, Han Li felt both relieved and indignant. Previously, he had struggled to escape the valley undetected, but now he left without a care. Though he seemed carefree, Han Li was extremely vigilant not to reveal his plans. Once outside the valley, he activated his arts of Eternal Spring, enhancing his perception to an almost supernatural level. He believed that even if Dr. Mo secretly watched him, he couldn't go unnoticed. Despite knowing that a direct confrontation with Dr. Mo was impossible, he relied on his keen senses. Upon reaching the agreed-upon location, Han Li found Li Feiyu already there, engrossed in childish antics at the edge of a lake. Ignoring Li Feiyu's complaint about his punctuality, Han Li was surprised by a package thrown to him. Thinking it was food, Han Li soon realized it was something more when he felt the objects inside the package. It was the manual for the flashing sword art he had long desired. Li Feiyu, hiding his delight behind a mocking expression, explained to Han Li what was inside the package. Han Li, incredulous, opened the package, finding not only the manual but also a stack of secret manuals from the 7th Supreme Division. Alarmed by the gravity of what Li Feiyu had done, Han Li expressed his concern, fearing the consequences if they were discovered. After all, the secret library of the 7th Supreme Division was an extremely restricted place, and stealing its manuals was a serious crime. With the golden words on the cover of the manuals, Han Li realized the enormity of what they had in their hands and the potential gravity of the consequences.